It's Chuck from Above the Basement, Boston Music and Conversation. How would you like to join us in creating great conversations that inspire and connect? Patreon is a membership platform that provides a way for creators like us to build relationships and provide exclusive experiences to subscribers or patrons. We have been self-financed since we got off the ground in June of 2016, but in order to fully invest all we can in each episode, we need your patronage. For more information, please go to patreon.com/above the basement. That's Patreon.
Sparks his cigarette, hands it up to Michael while he asks aloud if he should take this home again. Mike just spits and grins and drinking in his smoke tails. On his time you'll learn to swim, if you know what I mean. Sometimes your friends will be your fix, sometimes you'll rubs and feels. But if you were learning to live like this, yo, well, I can teach you to live like this, yeah. Like this, like this, like this. Like this, and we'll shoot right between the eyes with the message from
This is part 2 of our conversation with Ripe. So if you haven't heard the first, go to abovethebasement.com/episodes to listen. Coming out of Berklee College of Music, Ripe has been called many things, from neo-soul to funk pop to jam band. But whatever genre they fall into, their infectious licks, lyrical grooves, and high-energy performances made us immediate fans. We sat with 3/7 of the band out in Allston, Mass, a week or so after seeing them blow away the crowd at the Paradise. Singer Robbie Wulfsohn, guitarists Tory, Geismar, and John Becker joined us for a conversation about their roots, vision, and the love they have for their fans, which is a palpable entity if you have ever been to a Ripe show. They are about to embark on a big tour, which includes a stop at the Levitate Music and Arts Festival on July 7th in Marshfield, Massachusetts. Levitate is a community-oriented surf, skate shop, and apparel line based out of Marshfield, and through the festival they seek to support both local and national musicians. Be sure to grab your tickets and get more information at levitatemusicfestival.com. All right, so here is part 2 of our conversation with Robbie, Tory, and John from Ripe, recorded at their apartment in Allston, Massachusetts.
Well, I'm going to go back to Vermont again. This is way before my time. But Ben and Jerry, two dudes, they had this little stand on the corner of whatever and whatever at a gas station. And they decided to have a little ice box. And they said, let's make some ice cream. They sold some ice cream. Many years later, Ben and Jerry's is in China. It's all around the freaking world.
It's my freezer, man.
It's in your freezer, man. Totally.
Step into the freezer.
Yeah.
Tweezer.
Oh, no.
All right, we've gone full circle.
Yeah.
But Robbie, you're just mentioning that you're 7 years old and you want to be a musician. Well, what's interesting is that it's a creative process that you guys are making something out of nothing. But when you take the two guys selling ice cream, they created a unique brand and a dynasty of ice cream. That was their band within frozen desserts. Okay?
Sounds delicious.
And but you know what I mean? You guys follow me?
Definitely.
So you're making something out of nothing. It's very creative, and you're riding that wave. Making some money that way is obviously the goal, but I think Chuck used the word daunting too. It's in a good way. There's this fruit, if you will, to use the ripe analogy, in front of you, and you're getting closer to picking that fruit.
It kind of feels like, it kind of sounds to me like you're describing like a calling, sort of. Whether it was through Ripe or, another outlet, I definitely have felt that feeling just because of like how much joy music has given me throughout my life. And I remember feeling it even like the first time, jamming with somebody or playing, I was just like, holy crap, this is the best feeling ever. And then I started listening to music that I was like, wow, this feels even better than that. And then I started playing shows and I was like, oh, I can do this for other people. And I feel like everybody in Ripe really feels that way. It's like, the Paradise is a great example. Every rough moment on the road, or we're paying our dues and we will be for a long time, like none of that stuff matters like when you're up there and like, I see that this dream that the seven of us all share, we're scratching the surface of it and we're on our way. And
it's happening right in front of you.
So far, thanks for
you're
coming,
looking.
guys.
You're looking at the audience. It's happening right in front of you.
It's so cool.
But now, not to freak you guys out, I wonder, do you feel responsibility now to those people who are singing along to your music?
Definitely. I think that for me, there's a specific 3-day run we did when we were doing some Weekend Warrior dates in the Northeast at the end of this past year, where in very quick succession, 3 people came up to us after a show, one person actually before a show to request a song and then followed up with us afterwards. And without going into detail, because they're not our stories to tell, told us very specific stories of how they were currently using our music to get through specifically difficult times in their lives, all of which blew out of the water any sort of suffering I've gone through in my life. And there was just this surreal moment of recognizing it's what we wanted, it's what we set out to do, but we are actually having people take these feelings and this music that we've made to get to those feelings and applied them to stuff that is just totally out of my depth. So there's just a responsibility to keep up a level of care and investment and service and to make this really be something that we do for ourselves, sure, but also for the other people that are there in the room, because we are no longer going to be sure of what this music means to the people who are there to take the music in. And I think that we're in the process of becoming more finely attuned to exactly how what we're doing is being felt by the people doing a lot of the feeling of it.
Can you tell us what, you don't have to tell the story or obviously the people, but the song?
The song was Down with the Dark Side, I believe. We were requested to play it, and immediately following the performance, just heard the extent to which she needed that song in that moment, and we're just floored.
I'll never forget her face while we were playing it. She was up on her friend's shoulders, like physically, and just like dancing and smiling. She just looked like she was having the best time.
Must have been the morning, maybe early evening. The days can run together when you live like this. And I'm calling this the good life, but life can be deceiving. But sometimes things are so perfect you can't resist. You will call it blasphemy and I won't let it bother me. I'd rather light a fire than just sit here wasting sparks. So just put your trust in me, I promise to forever be the one to get you on your feet. Just watch me, I just don't know which way to go. Just fine, I'm down with the dark side. And I just don't care who I see there. Just fine, I'm down with the dark side.
I was trying to figure out a way to describe when we looked at the audience, and it was really a tangible moment for Ron and I. The audience hit us, and it was joy. It was really, there was joy in the audience and there was joy on stage, which, not many people throw around the word joy very often.
It's few and far between to go to a show, to go to an art gallery, to go to even a movie, but, especially places where you're literally rubbing elbows with people and singing words together. You are shut off from the crap for an hour or for 2 hours. You don't get a lot of that these days. So,
but it's also very different. I mean, you talk about like going to the movies or going to art. Yeah. That can be a very personal thing because you're sitting there in the dark by yourself. Everyone's quiet.
Yeah.
This is communal.
So to kiss your ass is thank you, thank you, thank you. That's like a very succinct description of a lot of things that we're very actively going for. You mentioned joy.
It's working.
Our album title is Joy in the Wild Unknown for this upcoming record.
Look at that. I didn't even know that.
That's, no. You allied, we're going to oop as best as we can.
Very nice.
One of the reasons why the jam band world has been so inviting and why like the question of whether or not we're a jam band is a difficult one to answer rather than an easy one where it's either like, yeah, we are, or no, we're not. To generalize a lot in quick succession, I think that there's a lot of times where I feel like happy emotions are treated as lighter than darker emotions, even in the language that we use to communicate about these things. And I think that feeling joy versus just feeling like happy or feeling content is a thing that gets like tossed around as a word sometime, potentially as a cliche, but to actually feel that lift and to have something like grab you by the shoulders and take you into that mind space is rare. And I think that more than any genre signifier, more than any talk about where we come from and like what on a specific musical level we are about, I think that those moments of release and those moments of kind of elevating what you're doing above the normal chaos and unfortunately negative aspects of life to enter this moment with other people where you are able to feel a joy that can play ball with the weight of the loneliness you may feel the next day or the anger you may feel 2 hours later on the phone. I think that what we're going for is a happy with enough weight to affect your day to day. And the fact that you guys notice that in the people that we are trying to have those experiences with is humbling, exciting.
It's just another early morning out of Davidson. Feeling so much better than you've got a right to feel. Then you got a right to feel. Good enough to take an unplanned for a stop in Washington. Good enough, you're not completely sure that girl is real. So you know you're singing sweet Caralee. Won't you confuse me like you're supposed to? And I've said what to do about you. Sweet baby, don't make me sad I ever met you, Caralee. I'll sing this song till I forget you, Caralee.
What I think that people try to do, it's like a treatment, like a medicine analogy. You take an Advil and it's maybe just going to last for like a few hours. What you aim to do with music sometimes is to trigger that joy or that impression in some way. You're
Really
not just
long half-life.
Exactly. You don't have to pop that Advil every 5 minutes. Yeah, I think that's a great thing to strive for. What's interesting is that people can be happy at a show, but like take the band like Metallica or like Megadeth or something, right? I'm going with this for a minute. Some of this is like minor, harsh, loud as hell. One may say it's not joyful, but then again, people can connect and feel amazing together. So I think that's a complicated thing about music, is that you guys can have some like depth to your music too, and you're still bonding people. It's not just like these happy riffs. What's the tune that's
Caralee.
Yeah, I listened to that on the way over.
People definitely dig that one, but
It's a song we close with often in our live sets.
It reminds me of like a Blues Traveler when they had their big hits in the mid-90s that were freaking great trio. I mean, have you guys ever seen them live
We've
back
played-
in the
We
day?
toured
Perform
with them.
Oh, really? Because
that's why we laughed when you said
yeah.
Send them
So
all
That's one of the reasons we laughed when you said blues.
And
Traveler.
John Popper actually sat in on a performance of Caralee once.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's
that
the
is
irony.
somewhere in Facebook.
That's
on
crazy.
Facebook.
That's crazy because
No.
that I could
That's so
hear
funny.
John Popper harp on Caralee somewhere in the back of my mind.
could
like
have,
that
but
was
you
very
missed it.
happening.
That's weird. That was really
Some weird
reminiscent.
vibes here today. I don't know.
Yeah.
With this upcoming record, the approach that was taken was to try and let the music speak on the record. One of the biggest changes in our approach from this record as opposed to other releases is other releases were almost exclusively what could actually be executed live. There are like a handful of very, young musician bells and whistles that were able to make the song speak, but it was very much about trying to bottle up this thing that was already happening exactly the same way live. And I think for the first time, we recognize that the two spaces that we're going to find ourselves in as musicians, recording musicians and performing musicians, allow us to do two different things with our music. And I think that the way we've approached this record has allowed us to let these songs breathe and live and exist in a very complete sense on the record, and then still be brought to life in a different way live. To use Caralee as an example, the recording of Caralee that exists, that's on our EP, Hey Hello, is very much tied to what the song does sound like, literally instrument for instrument live. What that means is that the live performance of Caralee is just superior in almost every way to the recording, because you're hearing all of the same things executed with more excitement, more energy, visible dance moves, pyrotechnics, Cirque du Soleil.
Scott Hadley, get on that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Wilco fan, and they are very different in the studio than what they do live. And I prefer them live, and some people love their studio stuff, but it's very different. They are very two separate animals.
Yeah.
And I think it's great because it really kind of gives you as you said, it kind of gives you space to breathe. You can kind of lean towards the recording. You can lean towards something different in a live version. It kind of gives you an open space to work in, I think.
What we're actually finding is that one hand is kind of washing the other, which is we went into the studio with this approach of we're going to grow these songs. We're going to get these songs to a place when they're living and breathing like they should on a studio record. And I feel that we did that. Then when it was time to prepare for the live shows following the recording of the record, we had this whole intensive process of like completing, quote unquote, these songs for the studio that we were then able to use as a reference point for, okay, where do we go now in a live sense? How are we constantly improving? How are we raising our game, even from the way that people already saw and hopefully liked us, to not only be the band that further elevates from where they were, but also like to recognize that this album is about to have a lot of say in how people listen to us, how people take us in. And so what about those things are we bringing to the live performance? What are we deciding not to bring so we can bring a different element to it? Our studio music and our live music are never going to sound identical because they're going after two very different end results. It's a really exciting place to be.
When's it coming out?
I believe April 6th is the release date.
I can corroborate.
I can confirm. April 6th is the release date.
April 6th, 2018, and it's called what?
Joy in the Wild Unknown.
We will actually be performing at Bowery Ballroom in New York. And Sam and I are both actually from New York, but the band's kind of from all over. But on that date, that's our album release show.
That'll be the official
Sweet.
one.
Yeah.
Excellent. And you got a big festival coming up too, don't you?
We're playing Levitate.
Levitate, right?
Yeah, we played that last year, and that was some of the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
Boston fans are pretty awesome.
Yeah, good to hear.
Did that levitate your fan base in a sense too?
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Because I would
Are you
think that
sporting
you have
Levitate merch right now. Yeah.
Well, because
out.
these are the Did you notice a bump?
Yeah, we did. We actually, the next day after we played Levitate, we played at the Ocean Mist in Rhode Island. Where in Rhode Island is it?
I don't remember the name of the town.
Ocean Mist, Rhode Island. Let's go with
Sure,
that.
let's go with that.
Ocean Mist.
Sounds
Ocean
very
Mist
Rhode
Ballroom.
Island.
And that show, I don't think we'd sold that many tickets to that show, but after the Levitate show happened, it just sold out very quickly, and it's not too far from Boston. I think a lot of those people were convinced to come see another show. And one thing I love about Levitate, just to toot their horn for a second, is they stagger all of the acts. It's not the biggest festival in the world, but they have super awesome artists, and there's never an overlap. So you can see every band that you want to see. When we're playing our show and people are walking away from the main stage, they just saw Twiddle or whoever it was, it's like, there's an awesome show happening, let's go check it out. And I think that's just super supportive to all of their artists that are playing, to not force the fans to make a choice.
Yeah, it's well done.
And who's the Levitate? Who puts it on?
Levitate is actually a clothing and lifestyle company that throws the festival.
Interesting. So, and who are the people? Do you know who they are?
Thomas
Dan,
Cousins
Tom.
and Dan.
I don't know Dan's last name.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I'm just curious because we could give, maybe we can do something on this. Chuck's wheels are turning already.
They've got a good thing going. That's
yeah,
for sure.
good for you guys. Good for other bands. So
We're big believers in what they do.
You know what reminds me when you're talking festivals? Have you guys ever been down to Jazz Fest in New Orleans?
Not yet.
We're missing it by a hair this year.
Yeah, well, I think we're playing in New Orleans on like the last day of Jazz
No, the
Fest.
day before the last day of Jazz
Okay.
Fest.
You guys have a very interesting thing going. I'm going to kiss your ass again. Because I think when it comes to New Orleans, you have that real sensibility with Dixie as well.
I'm actually bummed that we don't have the horn players here, because it would have been our second trombone player we would have interviewed in a month, which would have been odd for
Doesn't happen a lot.
Doesn't happen a lot.
May I ask who the other one was? Because I assume all trombone players know each other. We can still loop Calvin in that he missed out.
Jay Kaiser is his name. He's 82 years old. He plays in one of the longest running jazz bands in the U.S. called Aardvark Jazz Orchestra. He's an MIT emeritus professor of linguistics.
Wow.
Amazing cat. He's played the trombone since he was 10. He had actually an injury to his neck and a spinal cord injury, and he came back after 3-4 years, an amazing recovery, and now he plays, he says, even better than ever, trombone. What about the other college circuit?
Boston is a bit of a different beast than everywhere else, because not only was Boston colored by our initial rise within Berklee, it also had a sort of a second step. We graduate college, our entire college social group scatters to mostly New York and Los Angeles, because Berklee musicians are going to travel to where the music is. We remain in Boston and sort of transition from a Berklee band into a Boston band, and all of a sudden our fans are significantly more varied, both in demographic and like college that the college kids were coming from. That sort of happened after years of already cementing somewhat of a following at the college that we were attending. Speaking for Boston, it's a fairly difficult question to answer because we've been playing shows in this region for so long that there are potentially hundreds of places that could have been the first place you saw a Ripe show in New England. We have some people that will come from shows we played in Nantucket, they'll come see us in Boston. Some people obviously from Levitate, but it's a bit more difficult to nail down like what kinds of people are coming to the shows. It's a lot of people that are fairly similar to us. 15 to 35-year-old age demographic is probably our...
I saw some older
I just think it's
people in the
that's
audience.
No, it's a bell-shaped curve.
I mean, we get a lot of emails from people saying like they wish they could come to their show, but they're going to have to catch us next time because it's 21 plus. And, you know, we can't do anything about that because that's a venue set rule.
Well, but also you're going to get people that are going to say, we can't come to your show because we need a babysitter.
I think that was a benefit of the shows we played, you know, with G-Love and Special Sauce and Blues Traveler. While, you know,
You had that demographic.
it wasn't necessarily when we were coming up, like, we weren't exactly sure if that was the target audience that we were gunning for, you know, but we love all those guys, and the one commonality between our fans and theirs is that they're just music lovers, you know? I kind of feel like the age range doesn't matter because even when we were playing at the bitter end in New York and my youngest sister was like 12 or something like that, her and her friends were loving what we were doing, and they would come out, and my folks' friends, and I think one time we even played at this really weird yacht club somewhere, and the crowd must have been like at least like 55 plus, like
I don't think there was a person under 50 at that show.
And everyone had a great time. Age doesn't really seem to be a factor, but I think Robbie maybe nailed the sweet spot.
I just thought it seems a bit odd for me to be like, yeah, our demographics are like between the age of recently born to about to die. Like,
I'm super into that. That's great. Let's do it.
I like that. You should put that on the website.
you might like
If you fall into this
are
demographic,
Right.
we're the right music for you.
If you are alive.
It's a take no prisoners approach to likability.
We're usually like the breathing type of people. Well, guys, thanks very much. We've been talking for almost 80 minutes. See, time goes by.
Gotta tell my neighbor in the parking spot.
Oh no! I just checked. I checked my Jeep. It was still out there when I last looked. But
This is just intermission. We're going to have dinner here. Let's see. Chuck's already, is that a pull-out couch?
I hear you make a good shrimp scampi.
I don't.
He does.
I'm going to start spreading the rumor that you make a
seafood.
great shrimp scampi.
Actually, from here, I told you we're going to go talk to Mr. David Minahan, and we're excited about that.
You know who he is from the neighborhoods?
I told him about it before.
I know the neighborhoods. I don't know Woolly Mammoth very well. I was never given the name of the studio he owns, so
Yeah,
you
we
didn't give
recorded
me
our
enough
album there.
Oh,
Do you remember Buffalo Tom, the name of that band?
Absolutely.
So
So
they
they
were in the
recorded
90s, so they just recorded their new album. They're still together, and
wow.
I just learned that on Mark Maron's podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we really appreciate your time because we know you guys are coming off of that great few days of Paradise, and you're on your way to the tour. Next steps, you're gonna be touring like 30 something cities.
It's about 7 weeks straight.
Good for you. That's fantastic.
Hopping in a van.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we got a
John's
15
driving,
passenger.
right?
I do a lot of the driving. I enjoy driving though, so it's not a
I
burden for
skateboard
me.
behind the van. It's mostly punishment, but I've learned to enjoy it.
Right.
We
It's
actually
good for the voice.
just bought our first trailer, so we're gonna add
Congratulations.
an extra row of bench seats, get a little more comfy in there.
Excellent.
All
John
looking
just
forward
bought
to
our
it.
first
Very
trailer.
nice.
All right, so first, we won't go through all, but first city is where?
Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina.
The
And then
poorhouse.
from there,
We do like the Carolinas, and we work our way up to do the East Coast. And then we jet to Toronto very quickly.
Jet in a van.
And then what is it? Toronto to the Midwest, I think. Then we do Pacific Northwest, down California, and then we do Phoenix and Texas, and it wraps up in New Orleans.
a big loop
In a-
counterclockwise around the U.S.
Exactly. Yep.
And then we're going to hang in New Orleans for like 2 days as a band and see who gets left behind.
I think the word recover is appropriate to say even preemptively. We're going to spend this few days recovering in New Orleans.
I would imagine.
We're going to catch that last day of Jazz Fest and hopefully play some music with some more people.
I hope so. You guys gonna play us a couple songs?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Awesome. Let me stop.
Music speaks louder than words.
Next is Goon Squad.
Live on the table.
We take requests. As long as they're in places oriented.
while I still out the fish and sing this home again. And Michael just spits in grass, drinking in his motel down. It's time you learn to swim, if you know what I mean. Sometimes your facts will beat your facts. Sometimes you're upset fast. Oh, but if you're learning to live like this, well, I can teach you to live like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. It will shoot right between the eyes with the message from on high. There's no tomorrow till you earn it. No, like fires through the night. I'm not trying to just survive, I want to live 'cause I deserve it. Don't you worry, mama, don't you worry. The Goon Squad's gonna show you how. Hey, don't you worry, oh, don't you worry. The Goon Squad's gonna show you how. Yeah, the Goon Squad show you how to live life free of chains. Shackles on the ground, I'll stretch you out as you turn around and find your home again. When you get there, you will see friends you meet along the way. They start to look like a family, if you know what I mean. Sometimes your fact will beat your facts, but sometimes you're upturned fast. But if you're learning to live like this, I'm not gonna teach you to live like this, like this, like this. You shoot right between the eyes with the message from on high. There's no tomorrow till you earn it. And our life figures through the night. I'm not trying to just survive, I want to live 'cause I deserve it. Say, don't you worry, mama, don't you worry. And the Goon Squad gonna show you how. Don't you worry, don't you worry. The Goon Squad's gonna show you how. Gonna show you how. Hi Facebook Live. Hi people listening later at Above the Basement. Usually I say things in this part of the song to an audience, but now the audience isn't real except for Ronnie and Chuck. So now it's the time to do the next part of the song, and we're gonna do it. It goes like, feel it in your bloodstream, louder than your heartbeat. I'll teach you what the words mean if you just sing along. Feel it in your bloodstream, louder than your heartbeat. I won't teach you what the words mean, just join me singing. Feel it in your bloodstream, louder than your heartbeat. I'll teach you what the words mean if you just sing along. Say, feel it in your bloodstream, louder than your heartbeat. I'll teach you what the words mean if you'll join me singing. Between the eyes with the message from on high. There's no tomorrow till you earn it. Oh, yeah. Whatever it is. I'm not trying to just survive, I want to live 'cause I deserve it. Oh no, no, don't you worry, mama, don't you worry. And the Goon Squad's gonna show you how. Oh my friend, yeah, don't you worry, mama, don't you worry. The Goon Squad's gonna show you how. Oh no, 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 oh no, oh no, oh no, oh oh. The Goon Squad's gonna show you. Goon Squad's gonna show you. Oh oh, oh oh, oh oh, oh oh. Said the Goon Squad's gonna show you how. And he just go hey, yeah. Said the Goon Squad's gonna show you. One more time, he done go hey. Singing Goon Squad shows you how. Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice. Got some physical motion involved as opposed to emotional motion.
We might have peaked here a little bit on the recording, but
Oh,
it's
yeah,
okay.
I definitely did.
It's all the emotion.
Yeah, thanks,
So
boys
we
from Right.
peaked in our early 20s. We're fine.
Yeah.
Hey,
I peeked in the middle of that guitar solo.
Once again, we'd like to thank Robbie, Tory, and John for sitting with us, and we'd like to thank all the fine people at Press Here Publicity for all their help as well. See where you can catch Ripe on their tour and purchase their music at ripetheband.com. Go to abovethebasement.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, listen and subscribe to our podcast, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and look at all the nice pictures we post on Instagram. We are everywhere. On behalf of Ronnie and myself, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, and remember, Boston music, like its history, is unique.